Hello and welcome back to Catch and Cook California. I'm Kevin. This is video number 13 in my new series, An Introduction to Freediving and Spearfishing California. I'm headed back down to Southern California. Today we're going to go freediving for the largest species of limpet, the largest species of turban snail, and I'm going to do a little review on my dive light. Let's go. First things first, I just want to thank the outdoor equipment expert Amazon store for sending the flashlight, the OrcaTorch D570. I'm going to leave a link for the light in the description, and there's a discount code in there, so if you want to pick one up, follow that link. So it says it's a 2-in-1 light. So the reason it's 2-in-1 is it has the light, but it also has a freaking laser beam. This is not going to be a traditional unboxing video. I'm not going to tell you all about how I love the 90-degree corners on the box that it came in. Everything in the box came in one piece. That's all I'm going to say about that. What you really want to know is, does the light work? Does it work well? Is it something that you'd actually want to get? In all of my recent videos, whenever you see me bust out a flashlight, that's this light. One of the first things you might notice that might make you a little skeptical is it says it's got water resistance to 150 meters. If you look on the back though, it definitely says it's waterproof to 150 meters. This is a dive light, and I've been diving quite a bit with it. I don't think I've taken it deeper than maybe 40 feet, but honestly it has not leaked at all and it works great. The maximum output is 1,000 lumens. That's a tremendous amount of brightness. 19,800 CD for beam intensity. That's candela is the measurement. It's from Latin. Latin for candle. So if this number was 1, that would be the brightness of 1 candle. So this is like 19,800 candles. Impact resistant to a meter. You probably shouldn't throw it on the ground, but maximum run time is 1 hour and 51 minutes. Your beam angle is 8 degrees. Beam distance, 281 meters. The laser, it says, is over 1,000 meters. That it did come with rechargeable batteries and the charger. I charged these initially. I haven't switched the battery out yet, and I've filmed with this light probably 3 or 4 different videos at this point. Comes with 2 batteries. When it came, the wrist lanyard here was a little longer than I would have liked. If that's on your wrist and it's way out here, you can easily get it caught in something and get stuck in a hole. Usually when I'm down in a cave underwater, I take the wrist lanyard off of anything that I'm using, whether it's a pry bar or a light. That way, if it gets caught, I can easily get my hand out of there. But another way you could get around that is, instead of using the rigid cord that comes with it, you could replace it easily with some kind of a bungee. And that way, if your hand is in there and it gets caught, you can still stretch and let go. That was a tip from my buddy Lee, and I think I'm going to do that because it's a good tip that could save your life. So far, I have not found the laser to be particularly useful underwater. I tried it in the kelp and it kind of just diffracted. When there was bare reef and I was able to actually kind of see the beam, it shows up, but it's not super visible in our environment, probably because the visibility is not particularly good up here. But I used it to go for invasive bullfrogs the other day, and the laser was working beautifully in that environment. You could take it out spearfishing, but you could also take it out for frogs, and then maybe that laser beam will come in handy. Alright, let's go for a dive.
So I know I spent a good amount of time telling you things that I would improve or would like to see improved with this light, but in all honesty, I like this light a lot. I really dig how compact it is. It's the smallest dive light I've ever used, and yet it's extremely bright. So the main advantage to having a light is simply that you know what is around you. Every time you cruise past a crack or a cave like this, you don't have to guess, you just illuminate it. In this case, there's nothing in there, but there could be a huge ling in there. Over here in this crack, nothing but Garibaldi. Also, Garibaldi are protected, so don't spear them. In this crack here, nothing. Now it seems like, well, then why would I want a light? There's nothing in any of these caves. Yeah, there's nothing in these particular caves, but a lot of times when you light one of these caves up, there's all kinds of stuff in the back there. I've speared some of my biggest lings in the back of caves, big rockfish, big cabezon, etc. The only way you're going to know whether or not there's something in there, other than a bunch of purple urchin like this, is by putting your face in there and turning that light on. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be lucky and you'll find some scallops like this. But this video is not going to be just a discussion of dive lights, though I highly recommend that you get a light. We're going to dive some Southern California reef. So first things first, here's a friendly harbor seal coming by to check us out. Really, really cool. I always love diving with them. Remember, you're not allowed to legally approach them, but in all honesty, a lot of times they approach you. So when they come by, just say hi. Another classic sight that you might encounter on the reef in Southern California are California spiny lobsters. Now these guys are not in season at this point, but they will be in season soon. And if you're interested in joining me, I'm planning to do a collaboration with a liveaboard dive boat to do 4 days on the California Channel Islands. I'll have 24 openings if you'd like to join. So most of the people that I've been guiding lately when it comes to freediving and spearfishing are folks that don't have a lot of experience undersea hunting, whether that's in Southern California or Central or Northern California. And since everybody's kind of starting at the same general spot, I wanted to take some time to introduce you to some Southern California fish species. This is a half moon. Note the silver color and that dark spot behind its head. This is an opali. Opali is green in color with one large white spot on its back. The orange fish is a Garibaldi. Don't spear it. It's protected. This is a barred surf perch. It has vertical yellowish bars. And these guys, they look very similar because they are also a perch. They also have vertical bars. They're going to move a lot faster and school up. These are zebra perch, another abundant Southern California species. All of these are good species for beginners because none of them have size limits. This one here is a calico bass, also known as a kelp bass. Note that mottled patterning. As of 2023, calicos have a 14-inch minimum size, so I don't recommend them for beginner spearos. The same go with their cousins, the spotted bass and the barred sand bass. All of those have to be 14 inches. Those are definitely fish that you can pursue, but I recommend that you wait until you've gone for perch and opali and a few other species long enough to start to learn how big a fish looks at the bottom and how small it can shrink as you bring it to the surface. You want to make sure that you're not taking shots unless you are 100% positive that that fish is big enough to pull the trigger. So this is a pretty typical Southern California reef, lots of purple sea urchin, some decent red sea urchin down here, and I'd be more than happy to do a video on Southern California sea urchin if you'd like me to do that. But today I wanted to focus on this weird foam looking thing. What is this? This is Megathura crenulata, the giant keyhole limpet. I know it doesn't look anything like the limpets that you'd see on shore with that hard shell on the outside. It still has a hard shell, but it has soft meat that grows over the top of the shell. It's an absolute trip. But anyway, these are the biggest limpets in California, and they happen to be freaking delicious. Look at the foot. Kind of looks like an abalone, right? You're only allowed to take these by hand, and you're only allowed 35 per day. That doesn't mean you need 35 per day. As a matter of fact, I would recommend you don't take your full limit, but take a few and give them a try. I've been meaning to do a catch and cook video specifically targeting this species for you for a while, so I'm really looking forward to this. This species here is the largest of all turban snails. This is the wavy turban snail, Megastrea undosa. Now I've said before that these guys like to live on the rocks and don't like to be on the sand. I think I was honestly wrong about that. They do love to live on the rocks, but on this particular day, I routinely saw them walking across the sand. If anybody knows why they're out on the sand, would you please let me know? Because to me, it doesn't make any sense. They're very vulnerable to predation when they're out on the sand. Even the smallest groundswell can knock them over and throw them up onto the beach. But I saw a lot on the sand, so now I'm starting to think that they're kind of like conchs, that they can hang out on the rocks and then move across sand to other rocks. Anyway, the largest of all the turban snails. Nice. It's been on my list for a while to show you. Both of these species here we find in the archaeological record of the California coast. We find them going back thousands of years, showing that these have been important traditional food sources for indigenous people for generations. At one point I did mention that most animals do not die of old age. This octopus looks like it did die of old age, and remember, old age for an octopus is about a year. Like I said, there's a tremendous amount of sea urchin down there, so if you want to see a sea urchin SoCal video, please leave a comment and let me know. I'm going to process the shellfish right here, and then we're going to bounce to another spot and actually do the cooking. The way I like to process the giant keyhole limpet is I actually run my filleting knife underneath where the shell would end, even though it's kind of buried in the meat there. I separate them out into 2 pieces, remove the gut, remove the head, and then give them a rinse. After that, I'm just going to slice them into small pieces. The wavy turban snail, on the other hand, requires a bit more brute force. I do often find these in the archaeological record fragmented just like this, showing that this is one of the ways that indigenous folks would access this meat source, cracking the shell. You can use any old rock or you can use a hammer, but the bottom line is you crack open the shell, reach in there with a knife, sever a little bit of remaining connective tissue, then take your knife, remove the gut, and remove the operculum, which is the shell that it uses as a trap door to protect itself. The operculum is such a cool shape, it really would make a nice pendant or something like that, so it might be a good keepsake. The gut, on the other hand, tastes horribly bitter, absolutely awful, so remove the gut. You're only targeting the meat. Now I always like to give it a second rinse, and that way I make sure that there's no shell fragments that are going to end up in my food. Next, goes on a board, and I slice it about an 1/8 inch thick. At least I was doing that, but by the end of the video, I think you'll see I'm going thicker next time.
To that mix, I'm going to add my giant keyhole limpet. Now it's important to add this to some kind of a flour and also pat it dry, because the blood of a limpet is actually like a milky, watery substance, and it acts very similar to water when it hits oil, where it'll cause the oil to pop and splatter. You don't want a bunch of oil splattering up in your face, so if you take it, dab it with a paper towel to dry it off, then roll it and dust it in flour. That's going to absorb some of that moisture on the outside, so when it hits your oil, it's going to sizzle till golden brown, but it's not going to be popping so much. It also makes a nice little breading on the outside. Alright, I'm going to try this very thin piece of the wavy turban snail first. I'm going to fry that and see how it is. It's about the thickness that I usually look for when I'm slicing up the keyhole limpet, that comes out nice and tender, so we'll see. If it's super chewy, we're gonna pound it. If not, we'll just fry the rest. All right, I gotta keep this one piece separate from the rest. Let's get to frying. Before I fry any more, I really wanna know, this is keyhole limpet. You're gonna like that. This is the wavy turban snail, and this is the one I pounded, so still chewy. Flavor's super good though. Salty. That's quite a bit saltier than I thought it was gonna be. I gotta try another one. I may have overcooked it, so I did this one for 30 seconds. This is the unpounded wavy turban snail. Okay, so we don't pound it. It's much sweeter. I must have hit a salty pocket in the flour. That tastes more like clam. I kid you not. All right, that is a huge, thick piece. We're going all in. "30 seconds. 30 seconds, thick piece, wavy turban snail. Still got to make my sauce, but I'm actually, you know, it's experimentation here. We got to figure out if we need to pound it or we just do it straight before we make the sauce. That looks beautiful. Oh my gosh, that's good. Whoa! Cut it thicker. Whoa! That's like, it's somewhere between a clam and an abalone. I'm not even kidding. I hope the rest of it's that good. I'm gonna fry all of these guys the same way, and in the meantime, I'm gonna make a sauce. Nothing crazy, just a bit of lemon juice, a little bit of Worcestershire, and this is horseradish. It's prepared horseradish, not horseradish sauce. There's no mayo in there. You know why? Because mayo is disgusting. There it is. Megathura crenulata, Megastrea undosa. I'm mega hungry. Alright, going right into that wavy turban snail. Dude, it's good. It's like fried clams. That's what it's like. That's the orange foot for sure from the giant keyhole limpet. Beautifully tender. That's crazy because no pounding required. There's another piece. Yeah. Another piece of that turban snail. The turban snail is a little bit less tender than the very first piece that I got. And I'm thinking I need to play around with it more. I think I cut these too thin. The flavor's perfect, just like a clam or something like that. It's like calamari. A nice thick piece, turban snail. Get in here. I like the spice in this homemade cocktail sauce too. That horseradish is coming through. Oh yeah. I thought if I cut that thing, I mean it's so hard when you pull it out of the shell. I thought if I cut it thick and didn't pound it, it was going to be super tough, but it's not. Thicker cuts. Noted. Dude, that's seriously bomb. So much better than store-bought cocktail sauce too. It took like 30 seconds to make. Well, there you have it, folks. I hope you learned some things about diving Southern California. I hope this series is still informative and interesting for you. There's so much more that I want to talk about in this series. I've barely scratched the surface, and I think we're like 13, 14 videos in. So hopefully you're enjoying the ride as much as I am. And if you do live in Southern California or Central California, both of these species can be found in the rocks in those areas. So give them a try. You don't necessarily need to take 35 of them, but take 2, bring them home, and do a little experimentation. Please like, comment, subscribe. I always love hearing back from you. Share the video if you know somebody who might enjoy it. And until next time, keep the old ways alive. Whoops. I don't know what I was thinking. Red sauce on a red plate. Bad plating, Kev. Tell my girlfriend's Asian. I started to prefer chopsticks to forks now. She'd be so proud.
First, we got to start out with hanging out with a little harbor seal here. This is horrible narration.